So I'm here with Marcos, and we're just this experiment we're doing. It's like, hey, instead of having pictures on our website, maybe we should have videos of people.
Nice, nice.
So what do you do here?
I'm a designer here at the Khan Academy. That actually goes two different ways. One end, I'm doing like software design, and that's kind of touching on the exercise framework that we have. Right now I've been focused a lot on trying to make more interactive exercises easier to develop. And there's a framework that I'm building for that I'm open sourcing at the same time.
What do you mean by more interactive exercises?
So right now a lot of our exercises are kind of present you with a question. It's like, what is the sum of blah, blah, blah? Or complete the square? And it asks you this very simple one-step computation.
Right.
A lot of the stuff that I'm looking at is how to make exercises that let you follow a larger kind of narrative of problem solving. So in that case, it'd be like, let's say you are this tall here and your shadow is this feet long, and then your friend is over maybe 35 nautical miles away, and his shadow is this long. Given that, what do you expect the circumference of the Earth to be?
Oh yes.
And so recreating like the greatest, doing all the great scientific discoveries, but they're not very hard if you know the kind of basic concepts in there. You just need someone to guide you along the way.
Yeah.
A lot of what I've been thinking about is developing a framework, and actually developing the framework, not just thinking about it.
Right.
For making that happen.
And your background is pretty interesting. I mean, you started off at MIT. CS major?
It was actually math with CS.
Math with CS.
People call it like Diet 6 or
Diet 6.
CS.
6 is computer science at
6
MIT.
is straight up computer science.
So it's kind of a mathy. Computer science really is math. At the end of the day. And then you decided that was not enough.
Well, I mean, I think I was pleasantly surprised with how that had gone, but what I was really focused on at the time was thinking about education in the context of making textbooks. Textbooks now, say what you will about them, dying out or whatever. I mean, I still believe, but I wanted to make really good textbooks.
Yeah, well, no, we got textbooks.
Yeah,
it's textbooks, and some science fiction. Yeah.
And so I actually ended up doing, after teaching web design for about a year and a half, was applying to design school. And the whole purpose behind that was actually to make a really awesome textbook.
So I didn't even realize this. This didn't even come out in the interview. You wanted to reinvent textbooks.
Yeah. I wanted to actually make the coolest textbook, and in my after being in design school and making handmade books, for example, I was like, yeah, a 4x6 little book would be really sweet, and I was really excited, jazzed about this, and then as I started in 2007 to 2009, it's like you have the iPad, the iPhone, all these technological advances just happen while I'm in grad school. I'm like, you have to rethink this a little. So I got this design degree, but really... From RISD. From RISD,
that's like a serious design school.
So
I don't mess around there.
So I did my grad program in design, and I got a lot of the basics. I learned all the fundamentals, typography, design, layout. I got really attuned to that, and then focused my energies, again, thinking about, how do I create, reusable design systems. And that ended up being my thesis, was these kind of
How many CS majors were there?
You know what? Actually, when I left, there was 1.5 more. One had just left. So actually, it's an up and coming thing.
Yeah. No, I think more. I think that's actually a good combination. In fact, I think probably design should be a critical part of.
Yeah, and
more engineers.
I mean, exactly. I mean, I think a lot of what I noticed, at least, was that there's a lot of similarity. I mean, you have the Christopher Alexander design patterns thinking. That systems thinking actually is massive in graphic design.
Yeah.
But it was also something that was huge in the design pattern movement, also in CS. So there's a lot of happy medium there.
And so why did you decide to come here, or how did you even find out about what we're doing?
Oh my gosh, I saw a lattice multiplication video. I think I saw it on Reddit, and I was like, this is ridiculous. And then I was watching the video. In
a good or bad way?
Well, at first I saw it and I was like, I have never heard of lattice multiplication. And I saw this this massive list of links, and someone had a link to it. Yeah. And I'm like, I was a little skeptical. And then for some reason, I finished watching the video. I'm like, whoa, that's interesting. I actually
This was one of our videos.
Yeah, it was one of your videos, and I had never.
So it was a good ridiculous.
Yeah, it was a good ridiculous.
Okay,
but I was
good,
at first I was incredibly skeptical. I was just no. I'd done my my little concentration education in secondary school, and I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's you find yourself actually finishing the video.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, there's something here. There's actually something there. I didn't actually see you guys again for another year and a half. I was working at CMU and doing my own thing at that time.
What was your own thing?
Oh, well, I was doing freelance work at the same time. I was also working with the HCI Institute.
So CMU is Carnegie Mellon.
Yeah, Carnegie Mellon's Human Computer Interaction Institute.
Okay.
With Laura Davish and Rob Kraut. Amazing group. They're doing really interesting work with team-based dynamics online.
So what were you doing?
I was actually like kind of staff designer, and then like doing some CS work on the side, so like doing a lot of refactoring of the code base and making sure that we could reproducibly perform these experiments on these, like a couple thousand Facebook users every week.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were running these like kind of like massive experiments, and so I learned, even though I wasn't doing like the straight up like experimental design, kind of osmosed a lot of that stuff while I was there.
And then while you're so I interrupted your story. So how did you find out about what we're doing? Or
so I started seeing. I think Ben Kamens is really good about.
We have like 9 Bens in the organization. You have to be very specific. Right.
So Ben Kamens actually did a pretty good job of like posting on Hacker News every once in a while. And then I was like, man, like this has totally changed from the time that I saw it the first time. Like I think it had already gone through that one design iteration. I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. And then I saw you guys were actually like posting for jobs. Like this is perfect.
Yeah.
Like like what could be more perfect than this?
Yeah.
And so like just threw my hat in the ring, and the rest is history.
And the rest is history, and hopefully, the future too.
Yeah.
And what's been what were you hoping to do here, and has it been surprising? Has it been just as you expected, or?
I think so. Actually, when I first got here, I think I even wrote that in my cover letter. I was like, I don't know what I will do when I get here, but I'm like really excited to do stuff here. I had no idea that I'd be working on interactive exercises. I think that was like a glimmer in my eye. I thought, straight out of design school, straight out like, a year and a half out of design school, I thought I'd probably be doing like business cards and logos and, it's like that kind of stupid stuff.
Really? You thought, you were capable of more than business cards.
No, of course, I'm capable. I think
that's where my design skills are.
I think in my mind, I kind of expected to spend like, a couple months doing that. And I ended up just diving on in, like thinking about new features, thinking about ways to make the site more friendly. And overall, it was a huge like mind shift in like the term of like impact and scale and the ability to do something really cool in education. It was just like, we did this thing with David, one of our awesome interns, and it was just, like, how can we make the streak bar more fun, It's like, we played with just these very simple visual forms and, like, thinking, like, what happens when you lose your streak bar? Like, what does that feel like? And a lot of these are, like, very designish things that we were probing, but, we ended up coming up with and he actually deserves most of the credit. He came up with a very stunning model for kind of making that a more interesting and a more appropriate way of engaging and measuring our proficiency.
So they're like deep design questions you can actually measure. Like
your
work,
exactly. Exactly. like does it feel better to like drop down to something like to drop down to some arbitrary amount and start over again? Does it feel better to drop to a percentage which represents our actual belief in how far you're doing? Which of these movements,
or even how do we even measure our actual belief in how you're doing?
Exactly. And a lot of that, we were questions of, would it feel better if as you were gaining proficiency, you had a kind of like a moving indicator, something that kind of like moves along and animates. And it was born out of these like kind of very playful ideas, and it actually ended up evolving into something that was much more rigorous than kind of like the jovial like one back and forth that we were having initially when we were sketching it out.
All right. All right. And where do you hope this goes?
Well, I think recently I've been spending a lot of time thinking about these interactive exercises, and I actually feel like I'm going closer to my original idea for this textbook. It sounds kind of silly, but it feels like what I'm doing and the work that I'm working on gets me closer to designing these portable textbooks, which now, portable because we have like phones, and iPads and whatnot, but things that are engaging, that are lightweight, and that let you kind of dive in at any level, just kind of at your own
maybe
pace.
Do things that textbooks couldn't do.
Well, I think textbooks are capable of a lot.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. Like maybe we disagree.
No. I do think.
I
once again, a lot of textbooks.
I firmly believe in the power of the textbook, but I think for the things for the kind of reactive exercises that we can pull off, and for the ability to ask questions that are experimentally, you can actually place a little experimental test bed in one of these exercises. And I think that's powerful. I think that's huge, right? Like being able to see, like, well, that I got the answer. What happens if I had done this? You know, and seeing that there's an exercise that is able to adapt to that way of thinking.
Right.
I think that's huge. And like,
and that would have been hard with the traditional with a textbook.
Oh yeah, totally. You end up having to build up all of this, like, scaffolding basically in paper, which again, totally fine, right? But it's the time that you can lose to being unable to explore and play with tweaking values. I mean, I think that's awesome.
Very cool.
So.